Welcome back to the Pathways to Prevention podcast, where we explore the stories, strategies, and solutions shaping the future of drug prevention and recovery. Today's episode is a heartfelt and energizing conversation with someone who's been showing up for youth for decades, Jason Dorr, the passionate voice behind More to Life, a prevention and youth development program making waves across Florida and beyond. From puppet ministry at age 12 to mentoring teens across classrooms and camps, Jason's journey is fueled by one unwavering belief: your choices affect your future. In this episode, you'll hear how that simple yet powerful message guides everything he does, from tackling tough topics like substance use and relationships to equipping students with real-life skills and a sense of purpose. We talk about the highs and the hard moments, and what it's like when a message doesn't seem to land, and how one student's story can reignite the fire to keep going. Jason shares practical advice for parents, educators, and anyone who wants to be a trusted adult in a young person's life. Whether you're a prevention leader, a parent, or just someone who cares deeply about this next generation, this conversation will inspire you to show up, speak up, and lean in.
This is Pathways to Prevention, the podcast that sparks conversations shaping the future of drug prevention and recovery. Powered by the Drug Free America Foundation, we bring together leading voices like policymakers, researchers, faith leaders, prevention experts, and real-world changemakers to tackle the biggest challenges in the fight against substance misuse. From breaking trends to innovative strategies, we explore what works, what's next, and how we can all make an impact. You're here because you care about creating a world free from the grip of addiction. Together, we'll uncover the stories, solutions, and strategies that drive meaningful change. Thank you for listening. Now, let's get started.
So Jason, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today. And you've spent so many years mentoring teens, speaking into their lives, and now leading More to Life. So today we want to dig into the story behind that passion and the impact your work is having on young people. And I'm hoping we could start at the beginning. Can you take us back to when your passion for mentoring teens first started?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me today, Dave. So yeah, I started actually going back to my childhood. I started working at my church with kids, and my first ministry gig or working with students was a puppet ministry. So this is going back to when I was 12 years old. So it started there. And then just from there, I just got more involved in that arena, working with kids. And then when I was in high school, my first jobs were working at a daycare. So I worked at one daycare, and then I left that daycare to work in another one. It was good, but the situation wasn't great. So my friend was working at the YMCA I was school with, and he said, you should apply, you would be great. And so I did. And so I started working at the YMCA with before and after school clubs and summer camps. And I did that for about 8 years. At the same time, I was going through ministry school after I graduated high school. And what happened with that, I was working different arenas within the church. I was working with young ones and moved up to middle school. And I kind of felt my direction going with youth ministry. So in 1999, I became a youth minister, and I did that for about 15 years. And so just doing that every week, every Wednesday night, and then going to the schools and actually connecting with students there through, what's called the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So I was doing youth ministry work. I was doing the FCAs, and I was working at the Y. And after a while, I'm like, man, I really want to be more in the schools. I like the church and I like the YMCA. I just want to get into the schools more. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I get this email from More to Life. And that's where that door opened up. And I can share more about that if you'd like.
I want to hone in on that passion, because you live it and breathe it, and it just radiates. And I'm curious, what was it about working with youth that just really spoke to you, in those early days?
I don't really know where it came from. I just was always drawn to it. I love kids, and it started with kids, just working with young ones. And it's almost like you kind of move up the ranks. Even when I worked at the YMCA, it started with like kindergarten, but then the more you grow into it, they were moving you up to second grade, third grade. Before you know, I was working with fifth grade. So I just love working with older kids. I just felt like I could connect with them. Not that I couldn't connect with younger ones, but I just felt it was like a level thing, just going from one grade to the other. And just my passion would grow and grow for the older ones. And then when I entered into youth ministry work, it was, of course, middle school and high school. So I found my element, and I was just working with teens. I love the middle school. They're just goofy and fun, but also high school, you just kind of, the maturity level gets a little bit greater, not entirely, but it grows. And so that just kind of stirred within me to want to go more into the schools. And so for years, I always did middle and high school with the presentations with More to Life. That was always my realm. I always liked kids and always found myself going back there. But my passion was middle school and high school, because typically I wanted to help them make good choices in life. That's really what More to Life is all about, is making positive choices. Our tagline is, your choices affect your future. And so I just doing that for the last 18 years, I've just really grown that passion, and I just enjoy it. I love my job. I look forward to getting up every day. And it's one of those jobs you're like, oh, I have to go to work. I hate work. I hate my job. No, I look forward to it. Going into the schools during the school year, and then summer camps. Summer is so much fun. Just going into these YMCAs and art clubs and rec centers and doing what we do on that level as well. So I think just the more I do it, the more passionate I get about it. It just kind of grows from there.
Bringing your passion and your purpose together in your job, your job, is just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, they say that when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And so, is it work? Of course it is. But man, I don't look at it that way. What I'm called to do, like you keep saying, I'm called to do this, and it drives me every day. And I don't look forward to the day where, if things happen here where I have to move on to a different job, I'm going to really miss it terribly, because of just all the years I invested into it. Every once in a while you do get some feedback. I was at a golf tournament this past week, and I ran into one of my students that were in my presentations years ago. And he remembered some of the things. He goes, because of your talk, I'm actually living out the things that you talked about. And it was just refreshing to hear that. You don't always get that feedback, because you go in the classroom, you do your thing, and you leave, and you don't get follow-up. You don't get ongoing feedback or relationship, but you will run to these students every once in a while, and they remember, oh, I remember you. You came to my school. You talked about this. I'm like, oh, so what have you learned? How's your life now? And a lot of them are doing great, making good choices, and continuing to make those positive choices in life, with their life, their goals, their, family, or whatever they're doing. It's just amazing to hear those comments.
What's it like for you in those moments when a former youth does come up and say, hey, I remember you, and I remember this, and I've made these choices now as a result? Like, what's that like for you?
It's awesome. It's a great feeling, because again, when you don't hear the feedback, you wonder, have I made an impact? Was anybody listening to me? You just kind of question yourself, like, am I even doing anything? And then every once in a while, it's like the curtain is pulled back, and you get to see the fruits of your labor. You get to see the impact that people actually listened. And it's like, you know what? This guy is not crazy. He's making sense. Because like we say, your choices affect your future. So we talk about goals. We talk about having the life that you so desire. And some of them get it. It clicks with them. And they're just like, you know what? I don't want to deal with drugs and alcohol that would bring consequences to my life, or toxic relationships that would bring consequences to my life. I want to make the best choices for my life so I can get to my goals, graduate, go to college, be successful, be the thing I want to do in my life, and look back with no regrets. So yeah, that's always a rewarding thing for sure.
I love it. I love it. And you already indicated, that this work isn't easy. So what are some of those challenges that you've run into when it comes to trying to reach teens, especially when talking about things like sexual risk, substance use, and relationships?
Yeah, of course. So you're always going to get resistance. Obviously, when we talk about topics like marijuana, that there's always that resistance to that because obviously the culture will say something different. You look at whether it's social media, or you look at the music, they're all promoting it. They're all talking about smoking weed and getting high, and it's like a cultural norm. So when you start dropping truth bombs about the reality of marijuana and what can really do, not in all cases, but you will, especially in public schools, you will get resistance and, you're attacking their weed in a sense. So yeah, you're going to get some pushback, but nothing that we can't handle. We always bring them back to the reality of, why we abstain from drugs and alcohol. What is the reason behind that? Yeah, you may be having fun and it may not be a big deal to you now, but there are repercussions, there are consequences. And so obviously with marijuana, for instance, things have changed drastically from my youth. It's not your grandma's weed. It's not the Cheech and Chong era. We're dealing with potency. We're dealing with it being chemically made and in every product. And the THC levels are so high that not only is it, making you high, melting you out, making you feel good, but there's aggressive behavior that's now attached to pure THC. Students are hallucinating, having these, just wigging out on it to the part where they think they're on fire. They think somebody's chasing you. The game has changed entirely. So we have to bring that reality to the table. And I think after a while, they're starting to see it. They may not completely agree with it, but they will listen and hopefully they'll make better changes for their future.
You've been in the schools, you've been working with youth for quite some time. I'm wondering if you could share a moment where you did just feel like your message wasn't landing and you just felt stuck.
Sure. I think we all feel that. You get a little discouraged. I remember one time I was at this school and it was a really rough school and the teacher had no control over the class. And so I just made a decision that I'm going to go up and I'm going to speak, and whoever's listening, listen. And if not, then whatever. And so I went up and did my presentation, got a little bit of response. And I remember this one student came up to me and he said to me specifically, he goes, these guys are not listening to you, right? And at that moment, I'm like, maybe not, but if I get one student, if I can reach one student that's actually listening, my job is done for that one student. So I go into every presentation like that. Obviously you're not going to change the masses, but if you can get a handful that says, what, this guy's got a point. I need to reconsider, rethink my ways and say no to drugs. And, just really, like we always talk about, it's prevention. So we go in with a prevention message and we're really helping those who have not crossed that line or breached that gap. If we can win them and they can say, what, I was curious, but because of your talk, I'm going to abstain. I'm going to stay away from it. That's really what it's all about. Reaching those students that are on the fence about it and getting them to go the opposite direction.
You already kind of shared what was going through your mind and, how that impacted you and what helped you really push through those moments. And tell me about More to Life. Well, tell me about the organization.
Yeah, thank you. So More to Life is a youth development program. We've been around since 1999. A lady named Linda Daniels was the one that launched it. And I actually just saw her a couple of weeks ago. It was refreshing to see her. She's just a great lady, but she's passed it on, obviously. Originally, it was called United Students for Abstinence because abstinence education was really big then. But throughout the years, we've kind of morphed into what's called More to Life. We became More to Life in 2006. And it actually changed names. And then shortly after that, I came aboard. So we've developed from abstinence education to a youth development program or prevention program. And so we have expanded our territory where originally we were just talking about abstinence. Now we're talking about a variety of different topics, from drugs and alcohol to goal setting to bullying, social media safety, peer pressure, healthy relationships, time management, respect. And then I have schools all the time asking, hey, do you have a presentation on this topic? And we don't, but we'll create one. And so we love the challenge of creating new things. And And it all goes back to that strong tower of your choices affect your future. So it doesn't matter what we're talking about. We bring it back to that every choice you make in life matters, positive, negative. Every choice affects your future. So yeah, to answer your question, we are a youth development prevention program, and we will talk about anything in order to help students make the best choices for their life.
You paired them so seamlessly, youth development and prevention as it's one phrase. But I feel as often we might have a reflex, whether we realize it or not, to separate those out into silos or to different buckets or topical areas. Can you unpack or articulate why for More to Life, it's one and the same?
Yeah, I think ultimately is we want to help students any way possible. And so prevention obviously is reaching the students that have not made those negative choices yet. But then we also have to live in reality that some of those students have crossed the line, breached the gap, already made certain choices for their life. So then it turns from prevention to intervention. And we're just trying to steer them back in the right direction. We help them to understand that it doesn't matter your choices in the past, you can always make a U-turn and go the opposite direction. Your past doesn't define your future. So that's the prevention part of it. And then youth development is really kind of where do we go from here? Developing really, we talk a lot about life skills and just what we can do to help better our life and make the right choices by those life skills that will help us to make the right choices, to stay away from certain things, to how our relationships should go, how we interact with one another. One thing I like to say a lot is it's not just about the moment, it's about the future. So a lot of students are not thinking long-term. Their prefrontal cortex only sees the here and now. So we can get them to start thinking more about the future. It's going to help them now to make the best choices because, it's tunnel vision. It's like just going with the flow, whatever happens, happens. But what about the future? Because every choice you make now has ripple effects. So let's start thinking long-term, thinking about the future. And then that's going to help you to say no to drugs, wrong relationships, whatever that thing is that's going to hinder you from getting to your goals and dreams. So I think that's why we pair the two, because we're reaching the masses, not just the preventive side of it, but also the intervention side as well.
That's beautiful. And I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more with More to Life. But didn't plan that one. But I actually got to present alongside my friends at the Algarno Institute out of Australia. And we were talking about the overlap between prevention and recovery. And that really what we see it as being your best self. Prevention is about bringing the skills, the emotional tools to navigate stressors, to build the support group or the support network, and, really having that purpose to bring your A game, be your best self. And recovery still being focused towards getting back to your best self, finding your purpose, finding your identity, and building the emotional resilience skills to handle your triggers as they arise. And so it's just really interesting to look at those as a connected piece, not opposite ends of the spectrum. And that's what I was hearing as well, is about your best self, whether it's prevention or intervention.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
As the team has been working in schools, you've experienced some of those tough moments, the resistance. And I'm curious if there were any breakthroughs or turning points where just something clicked for you and the team, and how to help your messages land with youth.
Yeah, that's a good question. We got to understand that when we go into schools, when we do presentations, we have to be as engaging as possible. If you go in and you're dull and boring, you're lecturing, you already lost them within the first 5 minutes. So we have to be loud and animated and almost like a cartoon character in a sense, but we have to go beyond those barriers of being lame and boring. So the way we do that is we try to engage them by getting them involved in the presentation. That could be through visuals, that could be video, that could be games. You got to grab their attention first. And then once you have their attention, then you could speak truth into their lives. Students are just very visual learners. Even with our PowerPoints, We have pictures on there to kind of just help them to just gravitate to the PowerPoint, to grab their attention, to use either skits or use illustrations, video, anything to work with that. And then, of course, we get them involved by asking questions. So they're not falling asleep at their desk because they're engaged in what we're doing. So yeah, that's basically what we do.
I have an image in my head right now, and it's of you and I'll just say a school staff member, either huddled out in the hallway or backstage scrolling TikTok to see what is the current trending TikTok dance, playing that music as you make your entrance. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but that's what's where my head went.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because back years ago, I've kind of grown up a little bit. Back in the day, I would use any means possible. I would quote music. I would sing in presentation, something that was top 40 on the radio, just something to just be a clown up there. And I've kind of scaled back a lot on that, but I realized that I've become the dad because I have two teenagers and myself. So I'm in my 40s too. So like I realized that some of that, they're not laughing with you, they're laughing at you. So I had to kind of scale back. We'll add some of that flair into there, something that's just, topical, Gen Z lingo. I'll throw in a Riz or a Skibbity or something like that, something that just kind of make them laugh a little bit. Kind of, I learn as I go. I learn from them, actually. They kind of educate me.
That's fun. Just wanted to share that funny image. I also have this picture of, there's some guy in like Iowa or Minnesota, and it's like the Midwestern dad jokes. And he wears the white New Balance with Velcro laces and the jean shorts and just does all the awkward dad jokes. But that would definitely be they're laughing at you, not with you.
Yeah, I think I'm cool, but they don't. Or my kids tell me all the time how uncool I am. So you just have to accept it after a while.
Okay. Well, as you think about sort of the things falling into place about how to best engage and educate and inspire the youth, who were some of the people along the way that showed up for you and helped shape the way you work?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, because sometimes I feel like I'm left to my own devices, but I actually just got a new supervisor last May, and his name is Jonathan, and he is phenomenal. He's really have come alongside to really help me to grow. Because, when you do this for so long, after a while, you just go through the motions, you get stale, you get stagnant. And he's come along and just really challenged me to go to the next level, use different tools and bring new perspective into it. So I'm really grateful for that. He's kind of that voice of reason because, you want to keep it fresh. You don't want it to just be another day at the job. And sometimes what worked 5 years ago doesn't work today. So you have to keep growing, keep pushing yourself, keep going to the next level and not just keep doing the same stuff over and over again, expecting different results. So yeah, I would give props to Jonathan for sure.
That was a lesson I had hardwired into me during my deployment to Iraq, in that if you get complacent in combat, you could get killed. And, that's hardwired in my bones now. And so that kind of that same, like, committed to always learning, always growing mindset. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm curious now, as you look to sort of the landscape today, everything kids are up against and or have working for them, what do you wish more adults understood?
Very good question. One of the things that we also do is parent presentations. And I think, especially with social media, that is a landscape that's constantly changing. Once you think you haven't figured out, it changes the next day. So be on the up and up, just being educated yourself with what's going on in their world, because obviously our teenage years are completely different. We didn't have the influences that they have today. So I would like to educate leaders and parents a lot more and just help them to be on the up and up so that they understand the reality and the dangers that come along with social media. Obviously, it's a predator's playground that's going on. Some of the influences out there are not good. Anxiety and depression is at an all-time high because of social media. So we just really need to be educated. There's a lot of resources out there, a lot of podcasts out there. So I would say tap into that or bring more to life out to help educate you on those issues, and just again never stop learning and growing in that.
What would be one thing you want to, like a piece of advice or education you could share with the parents that are listening to this episode?
I would say have a relationship with your kids. I feel like there's three types of parents. There's the one that just head in the sand, or the ones that will just give them a phone and say, have at it. And then you have the ones that are uber strict, where it's like, I don't care how old you are, you're not getting a phone, you're not getting TikTok, you're not getting any of that. I would say be in the middle and walk alongside them and help them to learn to discern. So obviously there's some dangers out there. So you have to have those ongoing conversations, and they don't have to be a lecture. They could be 5 minutes in the car, just checking up on them. And then of course, if you're going to give your child a phone, let them know that I'm going to be monitoring things, periodically, and I'm going to put the safety features on it because I care about you. I love you, and I don't want to see you get hurt. And I realize that there's a lot of dangers that I don't want you to fall victim to. So walking alongside them, giving them a phone, but also helping them know that, hey, I'm always here for you. You can always talk to me. They should be able to come to you and confess their sins in a sense without feeling condemnation, shame, and guilt. They already know they've messed up. And so you got to show them some grace too. Are there consequences? Absolutely. You have to, be their parent, not just their best friend. So walk alongside them and have that relationship with them and start talking, keep talking, and having ongoing conversations with them.
You've got me intrigued. I want to lean in here a minute. And you said, have frequent conversations, even if it's just 5 minutes in the car, or, 2 minutes at the dinner table, or as you're headed out the door. You want that to be the norm within the household. How can a parent go about creating that norm to where it's normal to have those conversations? It's not a big to do. I'm going to sit you down and talk to you, son, but it's just a conversation. How do we do that as parents?
I wish I could say it's easy, but it's not. I thought when I became a parent, because I do these talks in the school, it's going to be second nature. It's different when it's your kids because they know you better than the kids that you speak to at the schools. So, and you're going to get that resistance. You're going to get that, yeah, I know. And, they're not going to always open up to you. But I think you have to be intentional. I think that's the key word. Be intentional with your kids and don't cower. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Don't feel like you're going to rock the boat or you're going to lose them. I think you have to be intentional. And again, just look for those little inroads. And if you see things or patterns or you become aware of something, I think then you do need to have those conversations with them and open that door of communication. And there's ways to do it. Again, not just busting into the room and laying down the law, but dinner table conversations. Food is always a good social climate. So going out to eat, having daddy-daughter date nights and mother-son nights or vice versa, mixing it up, having those times with them, to have those conversations. And again, 5 minutes in the car, but it's just ongoing. It's start talking, keep talking, and just not letting your guard down, not letting things slide. But again, showing grace, being real with them, being open. I think one of the things that does work is bringing in your past choices you made. Say, hey, I've been there, I've done that, I made that choice. I'm telling you the consequences are not good. And from what I've done, so you don't make the same mistakes. Don't open that door to your life because it's not worth it. That's always helpful as well.
Follow-up question. So my daughter is almost 2 years old, stringing together like 3-word sentences right now, not fully enunciating. You've got 2 kids, so you understand this sort of that phase, that era. If I want to be intentional about having the conversations to make it the norm, when does that start?
I think it's different for every child, but I would say, for instance, we started having talks with our kids when they were around 10 years old. Let me give you an example. So with my son, he accidentally stumbled onto pornography, and that was 10 years old. So we had to have the talk with them. This door is open. So of course you want to keep their innocence as long as you can, because the world is tainted. And so you really try to shelter. That's why parents shelter and they're helicopter parents. And it's not that they are purposely trying to be that. It's just they know the world around them and they don't want to be tainted by this, that, and the other thing. But you just can't have that for very long. So once things start to change and you're seeing the change, then you have to have those conversations. So I would say with both kids, they both had the sex talk around 10 years old. I know, looking back in my life, I'm like, that's just so young, but you have to, because if you don't, they're going to get educated somewhere else. The media, the social media, the movies, somebody's going to educate your kid. Their friends are going to educate. Why not get a reliable source in there? Parents are the number one influence in their lives. So parents are number one. And then, of course, when we come to a school and let's say we do have the opportunity to share about abstinence, don't opt your child out. You know what? Push them to be in part of those conversations. Even if they are 10 years old, 12 years old, they need to hear it as much as possible and from reliable sources. If you go to church and they have the February purity nights, those kids need to be in that and they need to be front row. Don't shelter. I'm telling you, you're doing them a disservice by sheltering them. They need to learn and have the right conversations about that.
Thank you for that free parenting advice.
Hopefully it'll help, and yes.
I'm curious too, sort of building along the advice sort of thread, when you're speaking to teens now, this day, what might be one message that you hope really sticks with them? Message you want to really stick with them?
I always bring it back to our strong tower, and that is your choices affect your future. We really hammer that in the beginning and at the end. We give out little wristbands with that little saying on them. I'm hoping that they can just remember that no matter what choice you make, it will have ripple effects. So there's positive choices they can make that will bring positive results. And then there's negative choices they can make that can bring negative results. So they have to learn as soon as they can, your choices affect your future. And so that's the thing, that no matter what we talk about, no matter what topic we talk about, we bring it back to that tagline or whatever you want to call it, that statement. And so we want to be known for that. Your choices affect your future.
Back to what you said earlier, learn to discern.
Learn to discern. Yes.
Yeah. What would be some advice you'd give to fellow prevention leaders that are listening, youth pastors, educators, or just everyday adults who want to make a difference in young people's lives?
I would say you have to start somewhere. If you have a desire, a passion to work with young people, whether it's one-on-one mentoring, whether it's a small group, whether it's going into schools and doing public speaking, whatever it is, you got to start somewhere. And, for me, I started at the bottom in a sense. The more you serve and the more you're faithful, it starts to be a gradual thing. You just start to move up the chain. But again, start somewhere. What does that look like? Is it at your church? Is it in the community? Is it your job? Whether you're working after school care or summer camps or whatever that looks like, start somewhere. And I'm guarantee you, the more you serve, the more you're faithful, you will gradually move up the chain, and the thing will get bigger and bigger as far as what you're supposed to be doing in life.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, please.
So a little bit of wisdom from my father, who won the Best Neighbor Award in Springfield, Illinois in 1991. That place to start is to just be a good neighbor. That could be an easiest place. Do you have kids in your neighborhood next door? And that was something my wife and I talked about when we moved into this home before we had our daughter. The kids that live next door, like, how can we be a positive, trusting adult in their lives? Just be a good neighbor in my eyes, is a pretty easy first step too.
That's good. A little example of that is the other day, last weekend, I was going out, I had an appointment, and I was getting in my car, and there was these two little kids. They had to be under 10 years old. They knew who I was. They said hello, and where are you going? And so I started answering their questions, and all of a sudden, like I was had somewhere to go, but I took the time to really engage with them. They were asking all these questions, so I had this opportunity, like this mentoring moment with these two young ones, and part of me would kind of, hopefully I can get out of here because I don't want to wait. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? This is more important. So I had an opportunity with them and just shared some values and some lessons. And it was really neat. It was just a really great opportunity. So yeah, I know sometimes we get busy and like, oh, I got this, I got that, and I got the other thing. But what if we actually paused and took the time to invest? Whatever that looked like for you, please take the time and invest in a child's life.
As simple as when you're in the backyard and they're next door, not just saying hi, but asking, how's your day going? Or, oh, hey, how's soccer? Just one little question, like just to see their eyes light up and, oh, the neighbor cares.
Well, I have these like teenagers that live 3 houses down from me. And typically, the way they look and dress, you'd be like, oh, they wouldn't give you the time or day. I've been purposeful to just say hello. And, I have 2 golden doodles. So I bring them out to the front and they'll come around and they'll play with the dog, and it just starts a conversation. So now every time they see me, these kids that look tough and wouldn't typically give you the time or day, you got to build a bridge. And even if it's just saying hello or letting them play with your dogs or whatever, conversation begins from there.
The power of golden doodles. That's a whole nother podcast series right there.
Oh man, they're amazing. They're my boys.
Oh, that's awesome. Before I get to the last question, what else would you like to talk about that we can share to further the prevention message, or to really highlight or promote more to life? Open door, anything else you want to unpack before I hit you with that last question?
Yeah, thank you. We want to partner. We want to engage with any students, whatever that looks like, whether it's a school, summer camp, youth group, parent group, whatever that looks like. We don't charge for our presentations. We offer free services. So if you have a group of students where they are and you want to bring us out, we would love to come out and talk about anything that you would like for us to talk about. And again, our strong tower is your choices affect your future. So whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's relationships, bullying, social media safety, whatever topic you want, we will provide for you. So please reach out to us. Our website is M as in Mary, the number 2L.org, and just book a presentation. And we'd love to come out and partner with you guys. So
how far will you travel? We've got an international audience.
Oh, well, within reason. Obviously, if it's outside of the Tampa Bay area, there will be travel expenses, but we also have the power of Zoom. So we can do virtual, and that's free. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, listeners, I'll drop all of the links, website, social media in the show notes here. And so last question, what's next for you and or more to life?
Ooh, question, $1 million question. What is next? I hope to, and it's funny how we just talked about this. I would like to go beyond the Tampa Bay area and expand our territory, international or just national, whatever that looks like. I would like to go beyond the borders. So if it's just a county over, whether it's another part of the state, whether it's another state, we will travel. I would like to do any door that opens up to us within reason. We will take it and be a part of that. So I think that would be it.
That circles back to your passion that we unpacked at the beginning of this episode. It is there. It is there. Well, Jason, thank you very much for taking time. I know you're busy and you're doing important work, changing youth's lives, changing parents' lives. So thank you for taking time to share some free parenting advice with me and the rest of our listeners. It's been a delight.
You're welcome, man. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Pathways to Prevention, brought to you by the Drug Free America Foundation. Together, we're building a future where communities thrive and individuals live free from the burden of substance misuse. If you found this conversation valuable, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others who care about making a difference. Your support helps us reach even more listeners around the world. To stay connected and explore more resources, visit us online at dfaf.org. Let's continue to spark conversations, drive change, and create pathways to a healthier, drug-free future. Until next time, thank you for listening and for being part of this mission.